So we're pretty happy with this starting hand. Definitely going to keep it. We've got a push and an Inquisition for disruption. So, alright, our opponent's starting out on Delver of Secrets. So we've got a decision now. Whether we want to just get rid of the Delver right now, or we could Inquisition our opponent instead. I'm leaning more towards going for the Fatal Push on the Delver, and just saving some damage. So I'm going to crack the fetch here, just go for the basic swamp. Go for basic swamp. And this is one of the big advantages to Fatal Push. You can just play it in black-green and you don't need a Bolt or Path. Now you have another removal spell at your disposal. So it looks to be Grixis Delver what we're playing against. Hopefully our opponent has at least one target for the Inquisition. We're going to most likely play next turn. We may actually play 2 discard spells. Okay, so we're going to start with Inquisition. And this could definitely just wreck our opponent's hand. So we see double Snapcaster, Mana Leak. So we can take 2 out of the 3 of these. And so the question is, we're going to definitely take at least one Snapcaster, we know that. Now, I think we want to actually allow our opponent to have one Snapcaster so we can resolve a Liliana. So I'm gonna try this line. Because what our opponent may do is go Snapcaster Serum Visions. And then that leaves us the perfect opening to go Liliana, sack a creature. So it looks like instead our opponent found a Delver. And is just going to play that out for the turn. So we've got another decision here in terms of what we play. We can play Tasker or Liliana. And if we play Lily, what do we do with it? We can tick it up, but then our opponent is going to flash in the Snapcaster. So I think it's a close decision, but I'm just going to play the Tasker, I think. Well, let's see. We could also just play Lily and take it down, but that would mean just trading for a Snapcaster or Delver. That doesn't seem great. So yeah, I'm just going to play Tasker now. Leave the Fatal Push in the graveyard as something to potentially get back. And now our opponent's in kind of a tough spot. But Serum Visions, that's actually a really good reveal. Off of the Delver of Secrets flip. So this Insectile Aberration can definitely pressure us. And our opponent, because they drew the Delver for the turn, that was why the Snapcaster plus Serum Visions play did not happen. So the Delvers are a problem at the moment, but it's definitely not an insurmountable issue. This could be a removal spell on the Tasker, or it could be our opponent might have a Del spell of their own. So it is a Gurmag Angler. That's pretty annoying. So we found an Abrupt Decay now. It's a little late, so our opponent's got one card in hand, which is that Snapcaster, which we knew about. So the question is, how can we navigate this situation? Two cards in hand. I think we want to play the Liliana. So let's go ahead and do that. And I think we want to go down, make our opponent sacrifice a creature here. So we'll see which of these two threats our opponent cares more about. And I think that was the smart move to get rid of the Delver. Our opponent's still got a Snapcaster in hand. The Gurmag is going to come after Lily, so I think we just have to let that happen. Stay at 12. That's the good part of this. And we'll see if our opponent does play Snapcaster plus Sarah Visions this turn. So yep, there's the Snapcaster. And the Sarah Visions. And, okay, great draw for the turn. We picked up a Maelstrom Pulse here. So that is actually perfect. We can use it to deal with the Gurmag Angler. And I think we actually want to get rid of this Snapcaster Mage as well. Hopefully our opponent didn't pick up anything too great off of these Serum Visions. We want to dodge cards like Colligan's Command, like more Delve cards, Snapcaster. So there's definitely a bunch of cards our opponent can find that are going to be problematic. But it looks like this could be double Bolt, perhaps. Yep. So 2 bolts. That's going to end our Tasker. And this deck is just splashing white, remember. So we found a Shambling Vents kind of late in the game here. And there's a Noble, alright. So it's just kind of a top decking situation, except our opponent has more cantrips, more card filtering, and also has 2 cards in hand, neither of which are likely to be lands because our opponent hasn't played their 4th land in quite a while. So here's a young Pyromancer. And we found a Lingering Souls, so not a bad pickup here. So I am going to cast it now. And hope that it can do some serious work on our opponent. Actually, I wasn't even thinking about this, but we can get in there with the Noble Hierarch. So I'm going to do that. And I seriously doubt our opponent is interested in trading Young Pyromancer for Noble Hierarch here. There's a Fatal Push. Okay. That's fine. So now our opponent's still got 2 cards. And I think it's actually a very close situation now. The Elemental comes in. I think we just take this. keep our spirits in play. That was actually a really nice pickup. So we drew Abrupt Decay. I like just going ahead and going after this Young Pyromancer and forcing our opponent to play something if they have it. Alright, so that actually worked in our favor. Now we can activate the Shambling Vent. And I just like cracking here with everything. Our opponent's pretty likely to have a removal spell or some interaction, so really no reason not to get in there with everything. If our opponent gets rid of the Shambling Vent, they still take 3 from the spirits. So yet there's a Fatal Push to take care of the Shambling Vent. But the spirits still get through. Definitely happy about our opponent just passing back. We still haven't seen our opponent play that 4th land at all this game. So it seems like they continually have been picking up gas. The worst card for us to see here would be something like Electrolyze, because that would be it. That would get rid of multiple spirits in one go. So we have another Shambling Vent. We can use that as another way to pressure our opponent moving forward. But it looks like our opponent's just going to fall to 6. So we'll see end of turn. Okay, so end of turn, here's a Snapcaster. That's going to go for a Bolt. So we'll see if our opponent wants to bolt the Noble Hierarch. Or no, I believe it was a Bolt, yeah. So that's actually just going to get flashback, target us. So that's kind of a red flag there. But I don't think we can block with the Noble, so I'm going to go to 4. If our opponent has 2 burn spells, we would just lose here. Looks like they do not have 2 burn spells. So I like going for activating the Shambling Vent. If our opponent has another Snapcaster, we would die to an all-out attack, but I believe that would be the 4th Snapcaster Mage. I think we kind of have to go for it. Forces our opponent to have something here. Okay, so it is the 4th Snapcaster, I believe. And that's going to go for a Fatal Push, push away the Shambling Vent, and then our opponent's going to have a lethal attack. But had we stayed back, I just don't think we were going to win this game. Especially having drawn Blooming Marsh for the turn, we would have to trade away our board for our opponent's creatures, and then we're just back to this top decking situation. So don't regret the play, but definitely regret the result. So sideboarding against Grixis. It's a very grindy matchup, clearly. So we want a lot of threats and card draw, but we only have so many cards we can actually bring in and out in the matchup. So a card like Thoughtseize, I like trimming it just because we see how often these games come down to top decking, and you just want as many cards that impact the board as possible. I like Thrum the Last Troll. Basically impossible for our opponent to answer. Kitchen Finks is also good. Just a sticky threat. We didn't draw any Scavenging Oozes in that match. They're okay, not great in the matchup. Same with Nobles. Just they're good. They're like pretty good because we're on the play. I think we keep them all in. I like the Lilies still, so I don't think we need Fulminator. Fulminator is a way to disrupt our opponent's mana. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And Fatal Push in this matchup is actually only okay. So I think I'm going to shave a Fatal Push, go down to 2 of those, and submit this. So, of course, no lands. Alright. Next hand. This is manageable. Sure. Kitchen Finks on top. We really need a third mana source desperately. So I'm gonna ship that to the bottom. So we're gonna lead on Marsh Flats and presumably get a white source with the flats. So yeah, there's the Godless Shrine. And now we're just kind of in this situation where if we draw a third land, I think we're in decent shape. If we don't, we're really in a world of hurt. So not the best place to be. Have a bunch of removal here. Abrupt Decay and Fatal Push are both kind of fill similar roles in the matchup, to be honest. So we don't really want a ton of those cards. We left in a couple of each, maybe. I mean, we need to get to 3 mana in this matchup because a lot of our highest impact cards do cost 3. So if we go like Finks into Tracker or Land or something like that, we're going to be in a lot better spot. And we see some of the cards our opponent has milled, Terminate, and Counter Squall among them. So this could be a Delve spell here. That would be actually quite bad for us, just because Fatal Push and Abrupt Decay do not deal with something like a Gurmag Angler, for instance. Now, if it's a Young Pyromancer, on the other hand, or a Delver, we're happy to just burn a removal spell on more of those cards. So it looks like, yep, our opponent has shocked, gotten Steam Vents, and there is the dreaded Tasker, the Golden Fang. Okay. So, not the draw we wanted. I'm just going to play out the Scavenging Ooze. But alright, there's a Spell Snare. So our opponent's basically had everything for us up to this point. So if we draw land, we can attempt to Maelstrom Pulse now, the Tasker, because otherwise this Tasker is going to get a little bit out of hand. So we did find a land. I'm going to go for the Maelstrom Pulse. Now our opponent may have something like Mana Leak available, but okay. It dies, it may come back though. We know about cards like Colligan's Command are likely in this deck. But at least this gives us some breathing room for the moment. So we drew a fetch land, which means I actually like playing the Tireless Tracker here. And I don't like sacrificing the fetch land until our opponent does something. That way, if our opponent plays a removal spell on the tracker, we can sacrifice the fetch land in response, make sure we get those 2 clues off of this Verdant Catacombs. So yeah, there's the Colligan's command, kind of what we expected, but what we really didn't want to see. So now the Tasker is going to probably come back this turn. Or no, okay, it's going to be actually Pia and Kieran Nalar instead. So we've got a couple options. I think we want to crack a clue. Yeah, I like cracking a clue, seeing what we can pick up. And it's a Lingering Souls. I actually think we just go ahead and cast that here. So our spirits can potentially trade for these Thopters our opponent's presenting. And even though we're both at 14, our opponent's kind of got the upper hand in terms of the damage race, so I think we want to try to make these conservative blocks. And now this Tasker is going to come down. It's only going to cost 1, so this is going to be a pretty good turn for our opponent. Lots of card drawing out of these Grixis decks. Just so much cantrips that you're able to find exactly what you're looking for. We saw 4 Snapcasters, the 4th one, beating us last game, and yet we haven't drawn any Tarmogoyfs at all. One of the best cards in the matchup. So, you know, sometimes you'll get that variance when you're up against this type of a deck. So we were able to find a land for the turn. So the question becomes how to play this. I think we actually just go Flashback Lingering Souls, play Kitchen Finks, and pass here. So we'll see what our opponent's got. Looks like a young Pyromancer. That's pretty good. So we do have this Fatal Push in hand, which we can use. I'm going to go ahead and use it to try to get a reaction out of our opponent. So we see a Thought Scour in response. That makes sense. So our opponent's now responding because they want to get all of these elementals before the young Pyromancer dies, which makes sense. So I'm just gonna trade a Sphinx for the Pia and then take 4 from the Tasker here. Alright, let's crack a clue. Hopefully it's a good one. And yep, not what we wanted. So sad. And it looks like our opponent may have actually boarded out Delvers in this matchup, which makes sense. It's a smart move. So I think we want to trade off these spirits because one of the draws that we're looking for is a Liliana of the Veil to be able to edict away this Tasker. And Tarmogoyf, just going to play this out. But our opponent can activate Tasker. But it looks like there's an even better play available, so Snapcaster Colligan's Command, it looks like, is what's going to be the play. So we're just getting burned out here. Essentially, there's a Murderous Cut. And that's probably the nail in the coffin here. We can go ahead and Abrupt Decay away the Snapcaster Mage. Sure, we'll do that. But we're still taking 4 here. Going to 2. And yep, this is going to be a Snapcaster Mage on a Bolt. So our opponent just kind of had good draws, and this matchup also isn't great. So that's going to do it.